Okay. So medyo nadi-disconnect sometimes yung audio ko, no? Uh, Let me know, guys, if you cannot hear me anymore. Anyway, so we're now on plane areas in polar coordinates. Uh, in our last meeting, so we had plane areas in rectangular coordinates. So this time, so we'll be dealing with polar curves. And so how do we find the area? Okay, so for polar curves. So in rectangular coordinates, so we determine, okay, so we determine the area. So by knowing first, so what will be the applicable strip to be used. So whether that would be a horizontal or the vertical strip. So that would represent the area or the enclosed area. Okay, so to be computed. So this time around, so we'll have the polar curves. Okay, so polar curves, so in itself, so has or it encloses a certain area. Okay, for example, we have a circle, so it has an enclosed area. Okay, so by itself, okay, so by the polar curve itself, so it has already an enclosed area. However, so if there are two or more polar curves, so there would be some boundary there, so particularly the points of intersection between the two curves. So we'll be able to find the concerned area, okay, so bounded by two different curves. So that's another one. But in finding the polar area, so we have a general formula. Okay, so remember that in polar curves are usually stated. Okay, so in a polar form, the area. Okay, so the area here would be equal to 1/2 r squared. So d theta, and then that would be evaluated from alpha to beta. Okay, so usually, so if it is just a single curve, so most of the time, so our alpha would be 0 and then beta will be 2 pi. But also take note here, class, okay, so that beta should always be greater than the alpha. Okay, so once they interchange, so there's a possibility that you will be getting a negative area. Okay, so that's why you have to always make sure that alpha is lower than beta or beta is always greater than alpha. Okay, so sometimes you say we will be using some symmetry in so some symmetry, so in finding the enclosed area. Okay? Uh, so for simple computation. So just remember this formula. Okay, so this is the formula for polar curves. So 1/2 r squared d theta. So the only problem here is, so how do we determine the alpha and beta? So alpha and beta can be determined easily if it is just a single polar curve. So usually that would be 0 to 2 pi. Okay? Pero other than that, so sometimes pwede naman palitan. Okay? So make it we use some symmetry and then we just multiply. Mga pare-parehas naman siya. So we just multiply a certain factor so for us to get the total area. But then there are cases that polar curves. Okay, so polar curves uh, are bounded. Okay, so meaning we are to find the area bounded by two different curves. So in that case, so we get the difference. Okay. Well, actually, we just need to understand. Okay, so we just need to understand how the area works. Okay, kasi in the end, this is still the formula that we will be using. Okay. Okay, so just a recollection. So we covered this one in calculus 1. So we have these particular polar curves. So if you have an a sine theta or a cosine theta, so that resembles a circle. And then cardioid, actually cardioid one loop limacon and inner loop limacon, so has the format of A plus or minus B cosine theta. So it's the ratio between A and B. So that will dictate so whether that is cardioid, one loop limacon, or inner loop limacon. So if it is equal to 1, the ratio of A and B is equals to 1, then that is a cardioid. So if the ratio is in between 1 and 2, so that will be a one loop limacon. And then it has an inner loop. Okay, so if it is uh, if A is okay, is A is less than B. So if A is less than B. And next we have the lemniscate. So lemniscate is R squared is equals to A squared cosine 2 theta. And then we have the rose curve. So rose curve, it depends whether that is even or odd. So A cosine n theta. So n will correspond to the number of petals. However, if it is cosine, uh, so that would be 2n petals. Okay, so let's say it is cosine 2 theta, so there are 4 petals. And like if it is odd, okay, so the n, so will determine the number of petals. So let's say we have cosine 3 theta. So that means there are 3 petals. And Archimedes spiral, we're not going to use that one. So let's have our first example. Okay, so find the area and find the enclosed area for the polar curve r is equals to 2 minus 2 sine theta. So again, so our first step here is to graph. Okay, so you can graph this one. Okay, so using you can substitute, no, elementary substitution. So you can do that one. Uh, like for example, we'll start with 0 to 360 degrees. If you want it in degrees, then magsa-substitute ka na lang, no? Kaya lang, I'm not going to do that anymore. So I will leave that to you on how to graph. Okay, so supposedly you've learned that one so in Calculus 1. So you're going to elementary graph it. So how do we elementary graph it? So we, parang ano lang, di ba? So we get the value of r, so for every values of theta. So you can do that manually. So let's say when we'll start with 0 degrees, and then let's say we have an interval of 15 degrees. So 30, and then 45, 60. So up to, I'll go back to 360 degrees. Then I'm just going to substitute. So let's say when theta is 0, okay, so that would just be 2 minus 2 sine 0. So sine 0 is 0. Okay, so 2 times 0 is 0. So therefore, this is actually equal to 2. So tapos, ayun, no? And so on and so forth. I'll be plotting that one. So for example, it is, what's that? 2 plus, or 2 minus 2 sine theta. Okay, so I'll be doing it here. It is 2 minus 2. Okay. Ayun, no? So I encoded that one. 2 minus 2 sine x. Okay, so this is actually a cardioid. So based from the ratio A over B, which is 2 and 2. So 2 over 2, that will be 1. Okay, so that will be cardioid. So I'm going to enter it. Ayun siya, no? So initially, so yeah, no? ito yung ano, so let's say if I'll start with 0, so walang tawag dito, walang naka-flat. However, if I'm going to increase, okay, so this is what's happening. So at 0, as you can see there, nag-start tayo sa 2, no? So we started at 2, and then pagdating niya ng 90 degrees, so it becomes 0, and then until it will go to 180 degrees, so that makes it 2 again. And then pagdating niya, maximum siya doon sa ano, 270. So sa 270 kasi magiging ano yun eh, sine 270 degrees is negative 1. So that would make it 2 minus 2 times negative 1. So that would make it positive 2. So 2 plus 2 making it 4. And then and so on. As we complete that one, so that is our figure. Okay? So our figure is a cardioid. Okay? So that is a cardioid. So how do we find the area of this? So if I want to find the area, so we will be finding this one. I'm going to plot. Okay, so now we have our graph. Okay. So the significant points here are, ayun nga, no? So let's say yung 90 degrees, that is 0. 180 degrees, that is negative 2. 180 is 0. Sorry, it's 2. And then for 360, that is 2. For 270, that becomes 4. So you can do that on your calculator. So just substitute theta, okay, here, and then you'll be able to plot it. No? Afterwards, so we are to find the area. So we have our formula for the area, so which is from alpha to beta, and that is 1/2 r squared d theta. So we can just simply put up, okay, so everything there. So our alpha, as long as it is just a single, it's just a single polar curve, so we can assume that our alpha will always be from 0 to 2 pi. So 0 to 2 pi is 0 to 360 degrees. Okay? So that means for one complete revolution, we'll be able to form the entire cardioid. And then we have 1/2. So we just substitute what is r squared. What we only have is r. So therefore, r squared will be 2 minus 2 sine theta. Then square it, d theta. So 0 to 2 pi, 1/2, 2 minus 2 sine squared d theta. And then we simply expand this one. So 2 square will be 4 minus 2 times negative 2 sine theta. So 2, 4, 8. So negative 8 sine theta. And lastly would be plus 2 square is 4 sine squared theta, then d theta. And then we integrate this one. So we can integrate 4 and sine theta, but sine squared theta cannot be integrated. Okay, so remember our identity for sine squared theta, that is 1/2 minus 1/2 cosine 2 theta. Remember this. Yeah. So if it is even, okay, so 1/2 minus 1/2 cosine 2 theta. I'm going to substitute that. So 0 to 2 pi, then 1/2. So 4 minus 8 sine theta plus, I'll have 4. Multiply it with sine squared, that should be 1/2 minus 1/2 cosine 2 theta, and then d theta. So continuing from 0 to 2 pi, so we simplify, so 1/2. So 4 minus 8 sine theta, so 4 times 1/2, that will be 2 plus 2, then minus, so 4 times 1/2, it's 2 cosine 2 theta, and then d theta. So we have 4 minus 8 plus 2 minus 2 cosine 2 theta, d theta. Then we combine, so from 0 to 2 pi, so I'll have 1/2. 4 plus 2, that will be 6, then minus 8 sine theta minus 2 cosine 2 theta, d theta. So 4 minus 8 sine theta, or sorry, 4 plus 2 is 6, minus 8 sine theta minus 2 cosine 2 theta. And then we distribute 1/2. So distributing 1/2, so that will make it 1/2 times 6 will be 3, minus 1/2 times 8 is 4 sine theta, and 1/2 times negative 2, it's negative cosine 2 theta, d theta. And then we integrate. So the integral of that, so will be 3 with respect to theta, that is 3 theta, minus, so 4, integral of sine is negative cosine. So that would make it positive 4 cosine theta. And then, so negative cosine 2 theta, so integral would be sine 2 theta, so positive. But then, so we have 2 theta, the neutralizing factor will be 1/2. So that makes it 1/2 sine 2 theta. Then we evaluate this one from 0 to 2 pi. So from 0 to 2 pi. Okay, so then we follow. So cosine 2 is negative 1/2 sine 2 theta. And then, so the area then, so we substitute the upper limit, so which is so 3 theta. So 3 times 2 pi, then plus 4 cosine 2 pi, then minus 1/2 sine 2 times 2 pi. Then minus, so 3 times 0 plus 4 cosine 0 minus 1/2 sine 2 times 0. We're going to take a look at those zeros. No? So basta remember, sine 0 or sine 2 pi, so that will be 0. But cosine 0 or cosine 2 pi, so that will be 1. Or you can use the calculator. But make sure you are in radian mode. No? Pero kung gusto mo degree mode, so ang ilagay mo, instead of 2 pi, it's 360 degrees. If you want it in degree mode. Okay, so cosine 2 pi, so that's the same as cosine 360 degrees. It's the same as cosine 0. So this is actually equal to 1. Sine 4 pi, it's still the same as sine 0 degrees. So 0, sine 0 is 0. So this is 0. Cosine 0, that is 1. And then sine 0, that is 0. So what will retain there, so would be, so 3 times 2 pi will be 6 pi. And then, so 4 times 1, that would be plus 4. That will be 0 minus, so matitira na lang is dito. So 4 times 1, that would be 4. And then, so 4 minus 4 will be 0. So therefore, the area will be 6 pi square units. Okay, so that will be the area then. So that will be 6 pi square units. Okay, an alternative way in doing this, so kung ayaw mo gamitin yung 0 to 2 pi, so look at for the symmetry. So what do I mean by symmetry? So this is the symmetry, right? So ibig sabihin, so we have the right-hand side and the left-hand side. So it is symmetrical on the vertical axis. Okay, so we have a symmetry at the vertical axis. But then remember, so di ba ganito tayo? This would be 0, and this is pi all over 2. That's a pi all over 2 axis, and then we have the pi, and then we have, actually, we could have a 270 degrees, okay, the 3 pi all over 2. So this is 3 pi all over 2 if it is positive. But if you're going to have it as negative, so pwede rin siyang negative pi all over 2. Okay, so if it is clockwise, okay, so negative pi all over 2 or 2 pi over 2. So ayan, so since this is symmetrical in pi all over 2 axis, so we can just, okay, so we can just simply use yung alpha natin. So the negative pi over 2 will be our alpha, and then the positive pi all over 2 would be the beta. Doing so, so if our alpha is negative pi all over 2 and the beta is pi all over 2, so this is the area that we will be getting. Okay? So it's just half. Okay? So ano gagawin natin nun? So since kamukha niya lang yung other side, so I'm just going to multiply. Okay? So that would just be 2. Okay? So an alternative solution then, so would just be, I'm going to have 2. Okay? So kasi dalawa yun, di ba? Tapos ang magiging boundary natin yan, the alpha will be negative pi all over 2. And then we have the pi all over 2 dun sa beta, the upper boundary. Pero yung r natin, it's still the same. So that would still be 1/2 r squared d theta. So doing that, so parang ang labas natin yan, it's still the same as this. Okay? So this line. Diba? Kasi that it's still the 1/2 r squared. Okay? So nag-iba lang siya dun sa 0 to 2 pi. So I'm going to rewrite that as, let's say, a will be equal to 3 theta plus 4 cosine theta minus 1/2 sine 2 theta. And then this is evaluated from, instead of 0 to 2 pi, so I'm going to make it as negative pi all over 2 to positive pi all over 2. And then everything, so ano man yung sagot dito, I'm going to multiply that one by 2. Okay? So I'm not going to repeat the solution. So I just copy that one. The difference is there's a change on the limit. Okay, so alpha from 0 to 2 pi, it became negative pi all over 2 to pi all over 2. Then the answer to that, so we just multiplied it by 2. So let's try to see if the answer would still be the same. So a will be 2 times, so I'll have 3 theta, so I'll start with pi all over 2. Then plus 4 cosine Okay, so pi all over 2 minus 1/2 sine 2 times pi all over 2 and minus the lower limit of 3 times negative pi all over 2 and then plus 4 cosine negative pi all over 2 and minus 1/2 sine 2 times negative pi all over 2. Okay, so let's try to see uh, cosine 90 degrees. So cosine 90 degrees is 0. Okay, so therefore this would be cancelled out. And then we have 2 times pi all over 2. So that makes it sine pi, okay, or sine 180 degrees. Sine 180 degrees is 0 as well. And then we have the cosine negative 90 degrees. It would still be 0. Sine negative pi. Okay, that's the same as sine pi. So that would still be 0. So matitira lang, so would just be A would be equal to 2 times. So 3 2 pi negative 3 pi 2 times negative. That's it would be times. Silang 2 sa baba, be 6. So 2 and 2 will be, and would still be 5 square units. This is as long as you know how the symmetry works. So how it works for. We have enclosed area, so for part would one, we can mas lang, no? So theta, then we have the R. What's significant here will be, so 0, the cosine 0, that will be 1. So making it equal to um, 45 degrees. It's 90, that will make it 0. So 360, that will be 3. Okay, I'll just show you through the graph now. Pero again, so you can do this elementary method. Magsa-substitute ka lang. So palitan mo lang yung theta ng 0, 45, up to 360 degrees. So it's 3 cosine squared 2 theta. I'm going to change this one. So it's 3 cosine cosine 2x, but then squared. Tama, no? So 3 cosine squared 2 theta or 2x. So graphing these, the results it looks like. So when it is 0, So when it's 0, nag-start siya doon sa 3. Okay, so just like what I've mentioned. And pagdating niya doon sa 45 degrees, yan. That's the 45 degrees, it becomes 0. And then it will increase its value again until it will reach the 90 degrees. So which is 3 again. Okay. And then 135, so balik siya sa 0. Then sa 180, so babalik siya sa 3. And so on and so forth. Until it will reach the 360 degrees. So making it a rose curve, or yeah, it's a rose. So it's a 4-petal rose curve. Okay, so that will be our graph. And then, so if I'm going to use a symmetry, so what should I use? Usually kasi ang madali dyan is yung mga 90 degrees, no? Kasi yung 0 at saka yung 90 degrees. Kaya actually, ang pinakamadali dito, just complete. So wag ka na mag-multiply by symmetry. So that would be from 0 to 2 pi. Okay? Kasi pag 0 to 2 pi, basta sine function yan, so it will become, it always becomes 0. Okay? Sige. So yung pinakamadali, so we'll just do it using 0 to 2 pi. So 0 to 2 pi, so r squared. Okay, so our r is 3 cosine, sorry, I forgot the 1/2. Formula muna nga para from alpha to beta, so 1/2 r squared d theta. So that would be from 0 to 2 pi, 1/2, our r is 3 cosine squared, so 2 theta, then square it, so 3 cosine squared 2 theta d theta. So from 0 to 2 pi, so that will be 1/2, so that is 9, then cosine, okay, so cosine to the 4th 2 theta d theta. So labas niya will be 0 to 2 pi, so 9 all over 2, so cosine to the 4th 2 theta. So for cosine to the 4th 2 theta, so this is even, no? So ang gagawin natin, actually dapat hindi natin siya in-expand. No? So balik natin siya dun sa kanina. That would be cosine squared 2 theta and then raise it to 2 d theta. Kasi what we have would be the cosine squared 2 theta, which is equal to 1 plus cosine 2 or cosine 4 theta na siya. So since 2 theta yon, so cosine 4 theta all over 2. So our area then would be from 0 to 2 pi, so 9 all over 2, then cosine squared will be 1 plus 4, or 1 plus cosine 4 theta all over 2, then square it, d theta. So that makes it 9 all over 2. So yung sa taas, so square it or expand it. So that would be 1 plus 2 cosine 4 theta. And then plus cosine squared 4 theta all over. So 2 raised to 2, that will be 4, 3 theta. Ilabas natin yung 4. So 4 times 2, that will become 9 all over 8. Then 1 plus 2 cosine 4 theta. And then this one, so cosine squared 4 theta. So that's another identity. So that the cosine squared 4 theta, it's the same as 1 plus cosine 8 na siya, no? So 8 theta all over 2. And that makes it, so plus, pag-iwalayin ko, 1/2 and cosine 8 theta all over 2. D theta. Okay? So from 0 to 2 pi, so 9 all over 8. So 1 plus 1/2. So ito, 1 plus 1/2, that is 3 over 2. Then plus 2 cosine 4 theta. Then plus cosine 8 theta all over 2. D theta. So I can now integrate that. So that is 9 all over 8. So multiply it with integral of 3 over 2. It's 3 over 2 theta. And then plus 2. So times integral of cosine. It's positive sine 4 theta. But then we have the neutralizing factor of 1/4. Okay. So 1/4 sine 4 theta. Then plus 1/2. Plus we have the cosine 8 theta. So its integral is sine 8 theta. Neutralizing factor of 1 all over 8. And this is evaluated from 0 to 2 pi. So I'm just going to simplify it first. So 9 over 8, so 3 over 2 pi plus 2 over 4, it's 1/2 sine 4 theta, and plus 1 over 16, so sine 8 theta. And this is evaluated from 0 to 2 pi. Answering that further, so we'll have 9 all over 8. So substituting the limits. So the upper limit, so I'll have 3 all over 2, theta it's 2 pi, and plus 1/2 sine 4 times 2 pi, plus 1 over 16 sine 8 times 2 pi, and minus, so 3 all over 2 times 0, plus 1/2 sine times 4 times 0, plus 1 over 16 sine 8 times 0. So sine 2 pi times 4, at multiple pa yan, so babalik at babalik lang siya doon sa sine 2 pi, which is 0 degrees. So sine 0, that is 0. So ganun din ito, multiple lang siya ng 8. So sine of 0, that is still be 0. So 3 over 2 is 0. So sine 0 is 0. So sine 0 is 0. So matitira lang will be this one. So we'll just have cancel yung 2. So matira would be 9 times 3 will have 27 over 8 pi square units. 27 over 8 pi square units. Okay? Question. Wala. Okay. Sige, assignment. So find the area and close so R is equals to maganda. Good. 3 plus 2 cosine theta. Okay, so that will be your assignment. I'm not going to continue with 3 because 3 bounded by 2 polar curves. So it will take a lot of time. So I'll just be recording a continuation for that, and then I'll be providing you a copy of the video. I won't be able to finish this with the remaining time. So tawag dito. Magbibitin lang tayo. Okay, so for the meantime, so you have your first assignment. Okay, so dito sa finals. So find the area enclosed by r is equals to 3 plus 2 cosine 3 plus 2 cosine theta. Okay, so you need to show the graph. You need to show the graph and then the computation. Okay. So I'll be sending you this one. So I'll start the recording.